Yeah, so my name is Jeanine and I'm here on behalf of the Palestinian Youth Movement. For those that don't know, we are the largest organization of Palestinian and Arab youth organizing for the liberation of Palestine from the diaspora. We organize in over 20 locations across the US, Canada, Britain, and we're also in coalition with other Palestinian-led organizations in France, Belgium, Italy, Spain, and Denmark. We believe that we're not in solidarity with Palestinians back home, but actually we're fighting another front of the Palestinian struggle from within the heart of empire, to create a continuous crisis in imperialism and to make Zionism untenable in the places that we live, work, organize, study, and socialize. Our work is diverse and comprises organizing our communities, supporting the student movement, and building with trade unions and other left formations. We take up a range of tactics from resistance arts and political education to waging strategic campaigns. And today, as James mentioned, I want to focus on two examples of work that specifically relate to pressuring governments to enforce an arms embargo on Israel. The first example is a research report that we released in May this year. The report exposed UK arms exports to Israel and provided damning evidence that multiple government ministers, including David Lammy, were lying to Parliament, to the media, and to the public. Although Lammy claims that the UK only sends quote-unquote helmets and goggles to Israel, our research report analysed Israel Tax Authority data, and we revealed that since the beginning of the genocide, the UK has sent over thousands of weapons and military goods to Israel, including 150,000 bullets and 9,000 munitions of war. These are items which could include things like bombs and missiles. Our research also provided evidence to suggest that the UK is still sending F-35 parts directly to Israel, despite the partial ban which was recently challenged in court by Glan and Al-Haq. Although these research findings were significant, research is nothing without an organizing engine that propels it forward to create a crisis for the establishment. Our organizing efforts around this research report enabled us to secure coverage of the research report in a number of major outlets, including The Guardian, Al Jazeera, and ITV. We also released a letter published by 40 MPs, including Richard Bergen, who's joined us today, calling on Lammy to come to Parliament and account for the research findings. We held a parliamentary briefing to brief MPs on the research findings and ways that they can continue to pressure for an arms embargo in Parliament. And on the back of that, we supported Steve Witherden to lead an adjournment debate in Parliament on UK arms exports to Israel based on the report findings. We handed out 200 copies of the research report to civil servants working in the Foreign Office and the Department of Business and Trade, and we published a statement signed by 60 student groups amplifying the research findings and calling for an arms embargo on Israel. We mobilized thousands of people to take action outside the Foreign Office and organized dozens of Arab youth to take up tasks related to the report, and in doing so, understand themselves as political agents who can actually intervene in the system. The second example I want to speak about is our Mask Off Maersk campaign. This is an international campaign that we launched in May 2024 to demand that logistics giant Maersk cut ties with genocide. The campaign employs multiple tactics and approaches, including diplomatic, which is the example that I want to focus on today given the context of this conversation. In November 2023, we released a research report that showed that Maersk was transporting military cargo from the US to Israel via the port of Al Jazeera in Spain. As well as publishing the report, we sent a briefing to the Spanish government, alerting them that these shipments were occurring, knowingly flouting the Spanish arms embargo on Israel. In response, the Spanish government turned away 2 Maersk ships, and in response, Spain is suing Maersk and the US is suing Spain. Again, another example of creating a crisis for imperialism. In response, Maersk has been forced to completely change its shipping route so it no longer passes through Spanish ports while carrying military cargo. Since this win in Spain, we've provided evidence to multiple governments on weapons and energy destined for Israel that flow through their ports by air, land, and sea. Next week, we're joining civil society organizations at the Hague Group meeting in Bogota, Colombia, which was also recently mentioned, joining state officials representing over 30 countries. There, we will be presenting concrete research on how these countries continue to sustain the genocide and the ways in which they can stop the flow of energy and weapons to Israel. The reason why I wanted to speak about these two examples today is because, yes, they are examples of ways in which we can pressure governments to take principled stances to cut ties with genocide. But more than that, these examples show the power that we have as regular members of the public to take action and make a change when we are organised. The PYM is a fully volunteer organisation, and we were able to create a crisis in the UK Parliament, and we're the only volunteer organisation participating in the convening in Bogota next week. When we are disciplined, when we are committed, when we are organised, we can do a lot with very little, because unlike our enemies, we have the truth on our side. These examples also show us the importance of employing a diversity of tactics. Both research reports would have done very, very little if it wasn't for employing a media strategy, a mobilization strategy, and a parliamentary or diplomatic strategy. To truly win, and in order to meet what the moment requires of us, we must be agile and nimble, we must be smart and strategic, and we must ask ourselves, in the words of Paulo Freire, what can we do now in order to be able to do tomorrow what we were unable to do today? Thank you.